I'm Chrystal Genesis. I'm a journalist, basically, and I've been doing this for about over a decade, which is since 2008, officially, basically. And I suppose what I'll start with is I grew up in a household where there was always sound, always the radio on, or Vibes FM, which is a Caribbean radio station. Most of my family are Jamaican, and actually really interesting, if you look at the radar figures, Caribbeans are the most likely to listen to radio, which is so interesting. So in a way, the fact that I'm obsessed with audio and sound, obviously it's a massively musical place, right, is sort of so obvious. And I'm from Brixton as well, which is even more obvious and a bit embarrassing. I feel I'm a real cliche sometimes, but that's essentially my family background and the reason why I've always really liked sound. So I did a little bit of pirate radio when I was younger, and then I worked in hospital radio as well. It was in Whitechapel. So hopefully it's still opened up, and actually loads of different journalists have gone from there. For me, it was just all about getting lots of different experience and meeting lots of different people, because also I wasn't sure if I was interested in a particular area, because it's a wide field. It really, really is, and there's so much you can do. Most of the time we don't even know the titles of jobs that people have. So really, it's really, really good just to get out there and do stuff. And it doesn't have to be full time. It can be something you do once a week for a couple of hours. So I was kind of doing that, and I was kind of obsessed. And then at the same time, I loved news and current affairs. I was just really interested in that, but I didn't really know what it was. I just knew that I was just interested in people, news, voice, and stories. I did 2 weeks work experience at the BBC. Just literally printing scripts, doing some phone calls, doing vox pops, which you go and ask a member of the public a topical question, then you cut that into 2 minutes, you ask a few people, and then after 2 weeks they said they'd give me freelance shifts, and then I basically started freelancing from there. So what I then did is I then decided, okay, I want to get an international perspective of things, because that's what I'm interested in. So then I just contact editors and just say, I really, really like your show. Obviously you'd listen to a couple of shows and then pick out key parts that you liked. Not too much. People also don't get back straight away, not because they're horrible, but a lot of people are busy. So the idea of chasing someone down, don't worry. Also, this kind of job is what you do. I literally hound people every day, and I have no shame. And unfortunately, that's kind of how you have to be. And the more you do it, the easier it is. And then I just say, I really want to do some work in your department. You do a couple of what they call shadow shifts, which is essentially unpaid work. But then they just want to see how you are, how you get on with the team, any ideas and things like that. And then you just be pitching ideas, be really on it, reference some other shows that they did, just make yourself stand out. And then all of a sudden you get freelance shifts there and you get work there. And that happened to me with everywhere. And I basically used the BBC as much as I could, as it was using me as well, to speak for the whole black population in some meetings and things like that, or the whole working class population in some meetings. So it sort of worked for a period of time. And then I realized that there was a hole. I actually pitched the idea, and I was told that it was tokenistic to do stance. And I knew that was obviously not true. And I knew that there was podcasting was obviously becoming more of a thing. So I knew it, because I was oh my God, this is so good. It means all these gatekeepers, we don't have to use them anymore. It was so exciting. Anyway, so I launched Stance with a girl called Hetta Fell, actually, who left about a year or so ago, because she was coming back to London. But the whole idea was a transatlantic conversation. Me in London, she there, and with global international perspectives. It was obviously just something that people were interested in. So that was launched on Trump's inauguration day, not because it was reactive to Trump, and actually I'm not going to be reactive to the dominant culture. It's not about that. Actually, it's just so much better to just do what you know is right and interesting, and we're quite counterculture niche-y, and it works really, really well for us. So this is a bit about Stance. Once a month, there's various different things that we'll do. We'll kind of have a big topic that we'll look at, which might be something like unlearning for liberation, which looks at abolitionist practices and what that actually means. And I will do a program, which I'm doing quite a lot now, which with guest editors, so people that I like, people that have been on the podcast before. Then I do things where I do it on my own, which I'll be looking at, as I said, a big topic. We always tend to have a music guest, because I start with music. Podcast music is such a challenge, and I've just not been able to master it. So now I just start with music from the artist. I get it okayed. I obviously reference the label, and then I put that all on socials and on the website and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit more about how we do it with Stance. I'm just going to go for a few more here. We're always traveling and stuff. I went to Jamaica, so I looked at Jamaica as a place. I'm going to be doing a lot more work there, especially a lot more work just within like diaspora, kind of speaking to each other or speaking to our home countries, which I think is really interesting. I was in Paris as well. So again, like Stance, something that has been quite tricky for Stance is that normally I'm like an old school person, reportery person of just going around with the mic, and obviously because of COVID I wasn't really able to do that as much, so that's been quite tricky doing Zoom all the time. I have some producers who work with me like freelance, and everyone's paid, so Stance is not cheap, it's expensive. Normally it's fine because we get money from like clients and I do loads of events, but actually since the lockdown it's been like a little bit trickier, it's been a little bit harder, but you know, it's still going, still okay. And yeah, that's just basically everything a little bit about Stance. I'm just trying to think, hopefully that's enough. I'm going to play a trailer out, hopefully you can hear it. Hello, this is Stance, an award-winning arts and culture podcast presented by me, journalist and curator, Chrystal Genesis.
I'm exhausted, but I'm carrying on. It must be the adrenaline. Running next to me is Ivo Gormley, the founder. Hello.
Hey.
We interview artists, musicians, writers, actors, politicians, filmmakers, philosophers, comedians, and opinion formers. Anyone with a unique story you need to know about.
To be white is to be apathetic towards racial injustice.
I like to say that drag was my political boot camp.
It is clear to me that the old order is no longer alive. But the problem is the new order is not born yet.
I wanted to make a show that said, I haven't got a problem with my gender. You do because you're throwing burgers at me in the street.
Stance is 100% independent, bringing you 100% original journalism from around the world. You were arrested, you were beaten so severely that you couldn't walk, your driver was shot and assassinated. Are you worried about your life ending?
Yes, I'm worried. And let me be honest with you, it scares me, okay? I am not a superhero. I'm just another ghetto youth. But again, there's no other option.
We didn't ever really talk to anyone outside of our cult. I was thinking about this today, that I talked to like maybe 10 people up until I was 13 outside of our cult. We love counterculture, fresh ideas, nuanced discussion, and fun.
We are for casual sex, down and dirty sex, BDSM sex, gay sex, lesbian sex, trans sex. You know, all we are is, if you like, the Facebook of real world sex.
You know, it doesn't have to be poetic to be interesting, you know. So you get it?
Yes. Here's some of the most renowned voices alongside emerging perspectives that need to be on your radar.
That has kind of come to define my identity more than anything else, is the idea of being a bit of a cultural mongrel or an insider-outsider that exists on no man's land. But you call it no man's land, but the reality is actually so many people are in no man's land.
A new episode is released on the 1st of each month. Find us at stancepodcast.com and across all podcasting platforms, plus at Stance on socials. There you go. That's it. That's kind of a flavour of who we are. I applied for a job for a company called Neon Hum Media, which is most people come from like journalistic backgrounds or radio, audio, but actually we have a few team members where it's not the case at all. In a way, podcasting is the perfect place for this as well if you don't come from like a conventional background. And I think it's a good thing. And also, like, what I would just say really quickly is like, I've got 2 kids, so I know what it's like and I know how organized and on it you have to be, and they love that kind of thing, like what you can bring to the table just in terms of like logistics, quick thinking, which you have from child rearing. Also the ideas that you can bring as well. I feel like if you are like coming to the industry in a non-traditional way, your ideas are your currency really. So what sort of things do you have that someone who's 21 doesn't have? There'll be a lot, and you should be thinking about like, what is that? They actually approach us, actually. I know, I wish I had like someone on board who could just like sell my media pack to everyone, but I just haven't got time, unfortunately. But yeah, they come to us and they said, you know, we want to do something about the Black image and art. I was like, well, obviously in the perfect place because we love doing visual art. This sounds really fantastic. And then we had a few names, discussed what we wanted to do. And then I put together a team. And then, yeah, we just sort of like made the podcast for them. Massive. They're massive. There's so much more space as well, especially if you're a minority. It's just different. In the UK, yeah, it's just really different. So there's like a lot more space, definitely. They're more ahead because the sort of relationships they're forming with film production companies, all this kind of stuff. If you are like us, yeah, it's amazing being here. In terms of the podcast, starting it up, I think press is really important because the thing is you're up against big companies that have massive press teams. I think the most important thing is to get together people that you want to target in like a grid, you know, like Google Sheets or whatever format is good for you. And then you want to target them and then don't do like BCC, like unfortunately do individuals. And then like also just make sure that it's all the same font. You know, sometimes you're basically copy and pasting the body of it. And then sometimes you send it, it's like it's different font. Just make sure it's all the same. And then if you can reference something that you liked, like an article that they wrote before, that would be really, really good. And then do that. And I think, yeah, do if you can and if you've got time, try and send PR, send them a bit about the episode and then just keep on doing it every month if you can. And then it should be working. And then think large and small as well. Don't just be thinking like The Guardian or whatever. A lot of the time, if someone picks you up, loads of other people pick you up. Like my instinct is like, if it's really specific, then maybe you could go for brands, but I don't, and if it's more wide, it can go for more like, you know, that targets everyday people more. You probably know anyway, you're like, this would be interesting for a BBC thing. Or and then think, oh, this might be really interesting for, you know, Audible. Basically, just think about what they're like, what they call like business priorities, which sounds like so lame, but like it's really good to know that. And I'm sure some of this stuff you might be able to find online. If not, then maybe you can have a meeting with someone who's like just below the commissioner, maybe. And then once you know roughly a bit more what they're going to do, then you can target them. But yeah, it's all about thinking like, where do you think this could fit? And then fitting it to different production companies. And then obviously you want to think about like what role you want in it and all of this kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, generally speaking, like what we found, because I've received a lot of pitches in my life across like the last 6 years of being in industry. Sometimes people have really good ideas, but often misunderstand their place or their role within that idea. So like you might have a really good idea for a show and think you should host it, but actually aren't a very good host, for example, but you'd be a better producer, but you don't know you need to be a producer. So even just understanding the roles that can be played or having a better understanding of what you want, especially when you're going into a commission or a pitch. Yes. Of being like, I want to be the producer of this, and this is who I envisage being a good partner, a good host. This is the type of presenter. And going in with a full pitch that's really kind of well structured and really showing that you're thinking about it holistically, because often with ideas, we think our idea is the most important thing and that we alone can do it. And if we got some money, we'd be able to execute exactly the right way. And that's actually not the case. It's not just a case of getting the money to make your idea. It's actually pulling together a team.
Both. Yeah, definitely. I must say I'm not the most amazing on socials. I have someone like helping. Yeah, you need to be on socials, 100%. Yeah, and you need to be working hard on socials and having a rough plan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as well as working to target journalists who are going to get your stuff out there so everyday people can see, oh, this is interesting. I might give it a go. I just want to show you just a quick PR that I sent as well. This was an event that we did, and it eventually turned into a Stance Takes. We did it at London College of Fashion. You see here, they can click on it if they want to get more information, when it was released, the logo, you know, all the information just here in the first bit, and then some information about, you know, each event, yeah, and then bold, you know, things like that. And then a little bit about who we stance on, why people should care. No more than 2 pages, I think. It's just too much.